Thank you for dialing in today as we look to unpack those last minute Black Friday, Cyber Monday checklist items. We now are officially in November with 23 days to go until Black Friday. So looking forward to really diving into what can you take away from this, really actionable, practical tips that you can still have time to actually put into place to make sure that we have a really successful Black Friday, Cyber Monday, peak holiday trade, and then ongoing lifetime value of customers. We're driving those repeat purchase customers too. Now, we have put together an action-packed ebook to help you make sure you've got everything covered off. There is a QR code on the screen, or you can also use the link in the chat as well. So make sure you download that ebook and make sure that you're going through. There's lots of tips and then some bonus tips in there as well. In terms of the registration question, and thank you to everyone that answered that, really looking at what are people's priorities in the lead up and preparation to having a really successful holiday promotional trade? Some of the top feedback responses were conversion. So we know that we drive rapid and higher traffic to site during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, whether that is day, week, or even month. We know that a lot of brands do go early. So how do you give that traffic the best chance of converting? But then I think more than ever this year, really getting focused on growing that average order value as well. So making sure that we're focused on how can we get as much revenue from that transaction as possible. Great to see, looking at how to improve that confidence and trust through refunds and returns as well. How do we make that really seamless? We don't want someone to be choosing a different brand over your brand because it's not super easy. If they haven't shopped before, they might not know their size. And so how can we just take away that friction point as well? I think the top one over on the top right there, helping customers choose the best gifts and gift guides and navigating to landing pages of like gifts for her, gifts for him, gifts for mom is a really great way to showcase more product discovery and help shoppers navigate through site if they're buying not necessarily just for themselves as well. We know that new customer acquisition at Black Friday is key, but arguably not always the best time to be driving net new customers and really getting focused on who are your existing customers, how do we communicate with them, how do we get them to site, and how do we make sure that they convert, and for those, as we mentioned, those higher average order values. Let me introduce our Rockstar panel today. I am Kate Massey, head of APAC for SearchSpring. With us, we have Jane, who is the e-commerce strategic lead for Reload Media, and Jenna, who is the general manager of ANZ for Refunded. And really looking forward to really diving into the topic of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and really getting focused on what are those last minute things that we can start to do. So let me introduce across Jane, who is going to unpack our very first topic. So how can we make sure your brand and its Black Friday, Cyber Monday offers get noticed by the right consumers? So we know that it's a very noisy time. It's hard to get attention. I know we've had a lot of sales activity lately with end of financial year sales and warehouse sales and click frenzy sales. And I know my inbox has been overloaded with really great promotions from really great brands. So how do we start to stand out when it is that crowded marketplace, Jane?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate. Like Kate mentioned, I am the head of ecom and retail, or otherwise known as ecom strategic lead at digital marketing agency Reload Media. So this is a topic that is very close to my home and something that I chat to brands on a lot. And when it comes to Black Friday, the big sort of takeaway and the key thing is really preparing early. So what we normally do is we actually created a bit of a framework or a way of thinking around how you actually structure your marketing activity over Black Friday. So it kind of breaks down into 4 key stages and 4 key, I guess, pillars of that activity, and then sort of structuring it around there. So no matter the retailer, no matter the size, this is a pretty stock standard approach. And then looking at the tactics that you do in each of these stages is really how you make it your own. So that first stage, all about growing your brand, growing your audience, sort of growing the number of potential customers that you have. Particularly in this year, we know CPCs are going to be higher and sort of ads are going to be more expensive. We know that cost of living pressures are also sort of there on our audiences, and that sort of share of wallet is going to be really, really competitive this year. So to help us get in front of that, we want to be looking at that grow phase about a month or two out before your sale. So we're kind of coming towards the end of that now when we look at the sort of time period up until the sale. But it's really about expanding what we're doing. So trying to get customers to add to their wish lists, looking at lead gen activity to get people into your email database, looking at your UX on your website and sort of any of your deployments, getting them all in and done early so that there's no changes as we get further down to the sale. In that engage stage, that's kind of where we're sort of transitioning into now from a time period perspective. So that's really looking at that November period before you're actually live with your sale. So in this sort of time, we want to be engaging customers, keeping them interacting with us, letting them sort of go about their customer journey in that research phase and putting various products or categories into the top of mind. So that's really playing on your messages, your creative, how you play to the motivators of a customer to make sure that they're thinking about your brand before the sale comes up. In this period as well, what I like to do with a lot of the brands that we work with is some really hardcore scenario planning for what the next couple of weeks are going to evolve. So we know a lot of brands are going live with their Black Friday promotion earlier and earlier. I know some of them are live at the moment. Some of them are planning in the next week or two. Some of them are holding out until the Black Friday sale. Whether that's the best way to go or not is very dependent on your brand and your offering. However, what I recommend for any retailer is doing that bit of scenario planning. And that's looking at what is your cost efficiencies on things like your paid ads? Where is the engagement levels of your current audiences that you've got in all of your marketing funnels and your prospects as well? How do we keep them thinking about us and engaging with us before the actual sale goes live? Another key thing to think about in this stage is what's our proactive plan, but also what's our reactive plan for that period right before the sale. So something that we do with a lot of retailers is actually have a bit of a campaign and messaging sort of waiting in on the wings, ready to go when we need it to make sure we're really competitive in this space. And I think in a practical sense, you've got a customer who only has a certain amount of dollars to spend over the Black Friday period, and they might be weighing up your product or your brand versus a few others that they're looking at as well. So we want to be thinking about that share of wallet that we're going to be going after and enticing customers to stay with us. So something I often look to do is I keep an eye on the wider market for like the brands that we're working with, and I look at who are our direct but also our indirect customers, or competitors, and when are they going live with their offer, and is it a compelling offer or is it not? So when I say indirect competitors, that could be anything that's not particularly your product, but it's something that your customer will spend their money on. So, for example, a high-end jewelry brand or something like that, a customer might be thinking potentially they want to buy this piece of jewelry they've been looking at from your brand in the Black Friday sale. They might also be weighing up things like that holiday that they want to take to Fiji, or the TV that they're thinking of buying for their new living room. So we essentially in a sale like a Black Friday, we're also competing as the jewelry brand, we're competing against those others. So we need to make sure that we're enticing and we're engaging those potential customer prospects before we have this sale. And that can look like changing your messaging and sort of playing on a bit of a different sort of messaging angle, like the best is yet to come, or you haven't seen it yet. This works really, really well when you do see a lot of other retailers going live with their promotions super, super early, just making sure that you're not losing out that sale and you're keeping people engaged. Then flowing on to the next stage, that convert stage, that's really your sales period. So that's, if you're sort of going live on the regular dates, that's your Friday through your Monday of Black Friday weekend. The goal here is really about going hard, going fast, and being consistent in your messaging. So in that engaged stage, you're testing a lot of things, you're playing on motivators, you're seeing what message, what creative works really, really well for your brand. In that convert stage, you want to be really purposeful with your marketing activity and what you're actually saying to people. This is where I'm looking at things like the frequency of our ads, the touch points that customers have, and how many touch points they have before they're purchasing with us, and looking at my forecasts, whether it's daily, hourly, what have you, and saying, are we hitting those forecasts? What metrics are above? What metrics are below where we need to be? And being really flexible and adjusting as we need to. So in that time period, I'm really looking at our core metrics and making sure that we're hitting our targets, we're hitting our margins. And if we're being really, really efficient, particularly with things like paid ads and email campaigns, what can we do to push that to the next level? So if we're seeing efficiency hit well, NC ROAS hit well, how do we capitalize on it, spend a bit more, and make sure we're really, really profitable during that short window that we're actually in market? Also looking at things like your regional flux, whether that be in different countries or different regions, making sure you're playing to their strengths and you're really, really pushing your marketing as far as it can go in this sort of time period in your window. And a good tip that's often forgotten about is actually looking at your website and your on-site UX. So we know you're in a development freeze at this point. No one is updating the code or changing their website during this period, but you want to be making sure that it's working well. So when you've got increased volumes of traffic, increased volumes of people on your site, you want to make sure the shipping functions are working, the checkout's working well, they can add to cart, they can use their wish list, all of these things. So often we're going through and sort of doing those checks manually, and clients and brands are doing those checks as well, but really just making sure that everything is working as we want it to, because the last thing we want is something in that customer journey that's kind of throwing things off and actually hindering us. Then moving on post-sale, a really key part of any marketing strategy is then how do we retain those customers and increase our wider customer lifetime value of those people. So making sure we're looking at cross-sells, upsells, how do we engage them based on what kind of purchase or kind of customer they are to us, and really sort of keeping that going throughout the December, January and onwards. So in a nutshell, kind of a way to sort of frame your thinking and frame your marketing. Then the tactics and things that sort of sit below that, very dependent on your offer, your brand, your positioning. But a good tip is to sort of where to start and what you can think about at this point in time as well. All right, I won't harp on for too long, but that's about it. In terms of sort of reload, if you want to sort of chat to us or learn more, like I mentioned, we're a digital marketing agency. So we specialize in, and we've got teams specializing in paid ads, SEO, email and life cycle automation, content, direct media buy, you name it, programmatic, we've got it. And then in offices in all Australian capital cities, so Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, as well as Manila and London. And there's a bit of a QR code there if you want to have a little bit of a read more.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jane. And I think what really stood out to me there was, now is the time to be planning and reviewing that plan, right? But being adaptable to change and being able to watch the market and what's working and be able to tweak and change, as opposed to just like having a set plan and following that plan through, and having the right metrics and data. And if we don't have those right metrics and data, there is potentially still time to get that set up, right? So I think that's some really good takeaway tips there.
Absolutely.
We also will have some time for Q&A at the end, so feel free to drop any questions that you might have for Jane, Jenna, or myself into the Q&A. So let's then talk about how do we help shoppers find the right sale items and get to checkout faster. And I think the key here is, how do we find how do we get shoppers to the right products for them? And how do we incorporate what is on promotion versus potentially not on promotion, or what's on high promotion versus what's on a lesser promotion as well? One thing I always recommend at this time of year is now is 100% the time to be looking at finding those opportunities for increasing conversion. So going onto site and doing an audit of that site. So what are your top searches right now? Because I know I've already started my Black Friday, Cyber Monday shopping list, and I know which brands I want to be purchasing and the types of products from which brands. So shoppers are already doing searches on site, right? So lean into that data now and start to understand, what are shoppers searching for now? What have shoppers been searching for recently? What were shoppers searching for this time last year and during that peak trade last year as well? Now, and then test those search terms. So when you hit those search terms, so say you're on a site and you have lots of dresses and someone's searching for black dress, are the right products coming up? Now, we know that those shoppers using the search bar, they're those motivated shoppers. And in the current environment, those considered purchases, we're actually seeing the revenue from search go up for a lot of brands. So fashion previously was 16 to 30% of revenue coming from search. That's growing to 34% for lots of brands. And I've even seen some standout brands hitting 45% of revenue. We know for furniture and homewares, that's usually 45 to 60% of revenue. For health and beauty, that can be up to 65% of revenue using the search bar. And for food and beverage, we're actually seeing up to 75% of revenue coming from that search shoppers. So motivated shoppers, they typically convert at a higher percentage and a higher AOV. So test your top search terms, make sure that you've got the right products. And if you're in fashion, that might be products with good stock availability and good size curve availability. Knowing that the shoppers that are using the search bar are those motivated shoppers, you may not want to put your super heavy discounted items right at the top of those results. So it might be that you've got some promotions in market where you've got discounts up to X high percentage, but a lot of your best sellers might only be 10 or 20% on discount, or your new arrivals might not be on discount at all. So making sure you're incorporating that into your strategy right now, and you're using that top real estate where you're going to be driving the most traffic to get those right products, right shopper, right time. Then we start to look at, like, what are the different shoppers that you've got coming to sites? So you might have your loyal shoppers, right? And they might be the ones that you're starting to drive traffic to early with exclusive releases, new product drops that you may not need to discount more. And you want to make sure that they're purchasing multiple products. And what I'm seeing work really effectively at the moment is starting to look at bundling. So I was on the Age Athletica site this week looking to buy some new leggings, and they have 2 for $200 promotion on, right? So I was going to buy one, but guess what? I'm going to buy two. So really starting to look at, can you encourage your shoppers to buy multiple products, and starting to see some brands add a higher percentage of discount for the higher average order value as well. And I think that that's a really key piece. You're going to have your shoppers that are coming for the biggest, best bargain, right? And so you want to make sure that they find those products quickly. It might be a dedicated landing page with all your top Black Friday promotions on it. But then you're starting to incorporate things like inline banners, driving traffic to your bestsellers or your new collections. And how can you get shoppers to spend longer on site, look at more products, and purchase even the products that they may not have known that they were coming to site for as well? We're seeing right now badges being really key part of the strategy as well. So low stock, last chance, selling fast, trending now, Black Friday special, limited time discount, any of that call to action that again is going to make shoppers go, I need to take action on this before it sells out and I miss out. And so badges should be a key part of the strategy right now. Then starting to look at geolocation merchandising. So are your shoppers in Queensland different to your Sydney shoppers? And should you be promoting different products up and down in the results automatically through merchandising? And do you have different messages? So say, take Cookai, for example. They have 2-hour metro delivery in Victoria, so that they can set up all their banners and badges for Victoria shoppers to be able to call out those specific fast shipping, same-day delivery promises. But obviously, if you're a shopper in WA, and shout out to anyone dialing in from WA today, it might take a longer lead time. And how are you communicating those lead times, particularly if those warehouses are going to be increasingly busy and getting orders out the door? I think that's a key strategy as well, is really understanding those different shoppers that we have. The last piece of the puzzle is the personalisation aspect, and we'll dive into this in a bit more detail further down in the webinar today, but really starting to look at how can we grow the conversions through product discovery, through personalised recommendations. What is the shopper doing on site? What have they done on site previously? And what have other shoppers similar to them actually converted on? So showing those similar products, those cross-sell opportunities. And we're definitely seeing some really good results at the moment by that cart level and mini cart product recommendations. We have a brand at the moment that's showcasing their accessories range in the mini cart and has grown average order values by 20%. So really looking at each of those touch points without slowing down that checkout experience and taking away the friction to make sure that those shoppers find what they want really quickly, hopefully find a few more products that they weren't necessarily looking for, and get to that conversion piece that you've got that first shopper. When you convert a first shopper, that's when you can start to build on the lifetime value of a shopper. If you miss out on that first transaction, it can be really hard to get them to transact in the future as well. Now, about Search Spring. So we are super passionate about this. How do we get shoppers to the perfect products faster? And how do we really focus on growing conversions and growing the average order value? But also, how can we give e-commerce managers back some quality of life during these peak sales? So how can we schedule campaigns ahead of time, come in and get those merchandising campaigns really optimized with banners and badges, and have that automated and be able to control different geolocations as well, without having to be up at midnight turning campaigns on and off and trying to do that. To learn more about Search Spring, there's a QR code on the screen as well. But let me now introduce Jenna, who's going to talk about how can we incentivize customers to repurchase faster with instant refunds, but also purchase and improve that confidence and trust in making that initial purchase as well.
Thank you so much, Kate. Yeah, I'm really excited to present Refunded, but really to bring to light returns or post-purchase in the light of Black Friday and Cyber Monday and peak period. I think typically refunds and post-purchase hasn't really had as much of a place or a space in these conversations when you really think about the landscape, especially from the previous speakers around acquiring traffic and then really converting them on site. And so I'm here to speak right now around 3 really interesting tips that you can start to use your post-purchase or your returns experience to really help convert that traffic, especially in a landscape where it's super competitive. There's a lot of promotions going on. You're competing for traffic. And also along the lines of revealing some of that post-purchase higher up the funnel. So when we know that 96% of customers will actually check your return policy page before making a purchase, how do you start to almost use your returns or your post-purchase as your competitive advantage? So the first one I wanted to touch on was, after you've acquired all of these customers and as you're bringing them onto site, how do you really start to showcase in this period your strong USPs? So when you think in light of Refunded or in instant refunds, or even just across your standard returns policy, how do you really start to promote the seamless returns, the potentially the extended time for returns during this time, and start to use them across different points in that purchase journey? So we've spoken a little bit about digital marketing, even badges or inline banners. How do you really start to promote the ease of that process at the point of deciding whether to convert? And that's really where it comes to light around confidence and helping to increase that AOV, even alongside a promotion or across, full price products in this time when you do have that increased traffic across your site. So there's a lot of the clients that I work across that will call out those USPs across site when you think about homepage messaging on their PDPs, using tools like emails to communicate your strong instant refund or seamless return policies across that abandoned cart after you've already paid to acquire that customer on site. How do you use that as another opportunity to make sure that you convert them? So, Kate spoke about badges, and how do you use some of those tools to really start to bring that post-purchase experience further up the purchase journey? So the second one I would like to have you all think about is, how do you think about the post-purchase experience when it comes to your operations, but now and before you really launch into that peak retail period? So we all know that returns can create a lot of work in the warehouse and across your customer experience teams. And so how do you really start to look at processes that you can put in place today that can help create efficiencies through your operations? And so thinking about things like reducing your customer service inquiries or increasing efficiencies in your operation side or in your warehousing teams, so that those teams can actually focus on getting all of those orders out rather than having to think about and processing returns or refunds in this time. And the third one is around really using that post-purchase as your opportunity to drive the repurchase. So we'll be talking a little bit more about loyalty later on, but when you think about retention, your post-purchase experience is really that last touch point. So after a customer has gone through your site and made this great purchase and it hasn't worked out this time, how do you really use a seamless post-purchase experience or a refund experience to create that lifetime value? So when you think about it from a customer's perspective, that pair of shoes really didn't fit, and they've spent all of that time searching for it on site and we're excited, how do you give them that instant refund or seamless refund experience so that next time they make a purchase, they come back, or even better yet, they repurchase straight away because of that seamless experience? So I think whilst post-purchase will definitely come into play a couple of weeks after your peak period, I think there's really some actionable takeaways that everyone can do today that will essentially put you in the best place of success when it comes to a better refund experience. So when we think about Refunded, we really aim to solve this post-purchase through instant refunds. And the way that we do that is by using instant refunds to solve both sides of the friction that exists in refunds and returns. So obviously for a customer, there's delays and there's time out of pocket and they don't have their product or their money. And so we're really looking at creating an experience that helps give them that incredible in under 30-second experience of having their money straight back in their hands and in their pocket to repurchase straight away. And on the retailer side, there's a whole range of frictions that exist that stop retailers from being able to typically give that experience to their customers. So when you think about reducing operational costs and the impact of delays in shipping, but also how retailers can then improve confidence, improve conversion in the purchase journey and upper funnel with that return policy. And of course, the big one is being able to drive loyalty and repurchase. So that experience for a customer who gets their money back straight away whilst they're still on site and still with your website are much more likely to repurchase straight away. And those are some of the results that we see across our Refunded partners today. So a QR code there if you'd like to learn more or book a demo and see just how fast that can be and really how we can work with you to develop a post-purchase experience that can create that lifetime value for your customers.
Yeah, that's great. And we have a fast growing base of clients that run both SearchString and Refunded. And this really works, right? Like we have been running some A/B tests with C-Folly on using their inline banners to talk about Refunded and being able to provide those instant refunds to encourage that purchase transaction. And those A/B tests are showing that traffic is converting at a higher rate on those pages with those banners than those without, which has been really great to see. So you're really starting to look at like what are those inline banners being used for during this when you've got peak traffic coming on? Is it talking about things like refunded or fast delivery or loyalty program signups as well? And whilst it's potentially a little bit too late to start running A/B tests, you do still have a bit of time if you do have that high volume of traffic, but understanding and leaning into the different tech partners to see what have they seen working for other clients and being able to take that learned advice as well. So let's jump into one of our topics of discussion. So delivering unique and personalized experiences that promote product discovery, reconversion, and higher customer lifetime value. So Searching was so passionate about right product, right shopper, right time. And that can come in a whole suite of ways. So firstly having personalized search and merchandising. So what products have shoppers been engaging with, product types and brands when they come to site? And how do you automatically start to take that and elevate those products and similar products that are converting based on that other shopper behavior and building that profile up on a customer? And then leading into personalized product recommendations. So we've gone live recently with Baby Boo, and they sell a fantastic volume of dresses on their dresses collection pages and subsections of those pages, having that trending profile. What is trending right now for shoppers in those like high volume collections? And then going on to those PDP pages. So what is a really seamless similar products, complementary products, what other shoppers have viewed for product discoverability or purchased, and checking that are the right products coming up right now. If someone is on a new arrivals product, do you want to be showing them sale products? Because that's potentially decreasing the average order value. So really starting to look at not changing those product recommendations right now, but really just doing a bit of an audit and say, are the right products coming up that we want to, is that badging logic carrying across those product recommendations? Can we tighten up some of our rules or filters as we go on to sale around what products we do want to be showcasing more? And some of that might come from what products do we have good stock or size curve availability right now that we can elevate in those product recommendations. And spoke earlier around that cart level, mini cart, seeing some really great results from an AOV perspective. And then being able to then take that and push those personalized product recommendations. What have people been browsing for? What have other shoppers that have searched for those products gone on to convert on? Or what have they purchased? And what have other shoppers gone on to purchase as well? And making sure that full kind of life cycle of engaging with a customer is being taken care of. With that strategy, then we can get a bit more granular, right? So starting to look at segmented merchandising. And if shoppers are coming from an Instagram ad, creating a segment of a landing page with specific banners around that ad creative and inline banners or badges, if it's collaborations with influencers, being able to bring all of that to life as well. I'm really starting to look at where is traffic coming from and giving them a segmented experience for that. Do you have a different experience for new versus returning shoppers as well? And can you really dive into just really honing in on understanding the different types of customers that are going to be shopping during this sale time? So Jane, talk to us about personalized experiences and what you're seeing works really well.
Thanks, Kate. And it's an interesting one in terms of what works well, because it's so dependent on each retailer. But the common theme amongst everyone is really knowing your audience and having the right data to actually make informed decisions from. So when you think from a marketing perspective, it comes down to sort of two key areas. One is knowing who you're targeting, and second is targeting them with the right message. So when we think targeting of campaigns, you can look at your current customer base and understand what's actually moving the needle for those customers. Are they a high value customer and they only like a certain product for maybe an event wear or what have you motivator that sort of lies behind it? Or if they're a sales customer, it's a completely different motivator. So we need to actually market to them completely separately. So knowing your customer and knowing your current data and sort of leaning into that from an advertising perspective is always really, really important. and then playing on those different motivators or behaviors. So a big thing in digital marketing that's been this way for the last few years now is actually moving away from demographic and geographic and all of those sort of targeting areas, but actually relying on motivators and behaviors and things like that to then segment audiences and see how they actually engage with your brand. So a motivator could be the same for a 13-year-old girl as a 55-year-old man. If the motivator is the same, the message needs to be the same. So we then need to play on that from a marketing perspective to actually see what's going to move the needle. And to do that, we use a range of different tools and things like that to actually look at that audience set and say, is our message right? And are we getting the right result out of it? If it's not, we test and we go again and we find what is that thing that's actually going to get them to that next stage of their customer journey. So that whole concept is, there's a theory by Google and they've actually called it the messy middle. And it really is a messy middle because no two customers' journeys are the same. So we need to make sure we're hitting those different motivators to actually get them through. There's also a whole heap of sort of things that are new in the digital marketing space, like campaigns like PMax and Advantage Plus, which are so smart because they're using the right algorithms and the sort of AI and things that sit behind it. And the only way that those are successful is by like from a marketing perspective, you're giving them the right information and the right call outs and the right data and things to make those decisions. So I actually lean into a lot of those areas and those automations and sort of smart campaigns to actually use that to tell us what's also working for a new customer prospect or something else as well. So when it comes down to it, it's really just testing your motivators and trying to analyze your data as much as possible to see what's going to relate back to them.
Yeah, that's great. So right now, what people should be looking at, data from previous campaigns, what's been working, and then leaning into those AI machine learning to help do this at scale during those peak times. Jenna, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I probably look at this in kind of the purchase or the pre-refund engagement and then the post and the things that you can do on either side. I think I've spoken a lot about kind of revealing in the post, in the pre-purchase. But I think, Kate, you mentioned the A/B testing, and I know we have that CFOLI example of really starting to promote instant refunds or shopping with confidence because of that return policy to customers who might be new on site. And how do you really start to promote that messaging to a customer where that's going to make a real impact on their conversion or their confidence to buy that time around, versus, you know, potentially using other tools like email at the end of the refund journey. When you think about being able to have a targeted email campaign or flow that takes someone who's just lodged an instant refund, knowing that their money is with them right in that moment, what does that look like to trigger a campaign or an email flow that brings them back onto site, but actually using data around why they refunded something? So if you think about previous or, you know, typical refund experiences, you're sending something back, there's a return form, you're not necessarily capturing that data, but we now know that that customer returned that or refunded that item because it was too big or they didn't like the fit. And so how do you use those targeted campaigns to bring them back onto site straight away with that data and understanding how you can reconvert them or drive that repurchase? And then I think ultimately around that lifetime value, that's really about understanding what's the most important to your different customer groups. So if there's people who are price conscious, those customers who shop with you often, but, you know, really want that extra incentive, how do you start to use your return policy across those tools? So we have some of our retail partners who are looking at and have implemented longer return windows or refund windows for their highest value customers. And so how do you start to get a little bit flexible and personalized with different experiences for different customers shopping your brand? So I think, yeah, really looking at that pre and post refund, but also new and existing customers can provide different opportunities to target with that return messaging.
Yeah, that's great. So unfortunately for e-commerce managers tuning in, it's not a one size fits all, and our lives would be a lot easier if it was. So let's go on to the next topic. So how do we stay front of mind and increase customer retention and loyalty well beyond Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And I think this is a key topic. I've spoken to a lot of retailers about this recently, and I think the prediction is Black Friday, Cyber Monday is actually going to be big this year. So I know leading up, there was a lot of question marks around, is it going to be big? Are people not going to be spending money? People are spending money and are planning on spending money this Black Friday, Cyber Monday. But then there is a concern there. How do we make sure that then sales don't fall off a cliff when we step into January and February? And what are those strategies that we should be doing right now? I've seen work really well using those inline banners for signups to VIP rewards and loyalty programs, getting those opt-ins. I've spoken about this recently. So making sure that we have those email flows for what are shoppers most likely to purchase based on what they've purchased or what they've done on site previously, and pushing those personalized product recommendations into those email flows, and really starting again to understand the data. How frequently will different segments of shoppers repurchase, and the timing behind those email flows? Then we have just also launched an integration. So we have an integration with Klaviyo for email, but for SMS. And the last few promotional sales, like end of financial year and warehouse sales, and even Click Frenzy, my inbox has been overloaded with offers and my mobile has been relatively quiet, right? So how can you start to push those personalized product recommendations into some of those SMS campaigns as well? And starting with potentially those loyal shoppers first, and seeing what works rather than blasting a whole database of SMS as well. But really thinking now as you're driving traffic to site, those opt-ins, and making sure that we have that data, the database that is being built up for being able to make sure that we're turning those first-time shoppers or once-a-year shoppers into more regular shoppers as well. Jane, tips for you and staying front of mind?
One that I've seen work time and time again for retailers year in, year out is really a sophisticated and omni-channel approach to upsell and cross-sells. So the way that you want to think about that is customer first, obviously, and sort of understand what they've bought, any motivation as to why they've bought, and then how do we get them to that next purchase. And this looks very different for the different sort of retailers and what your product set looks like. But to give you a bit of an example, we work with a skincare brand who sell cleansers, moisturizers, all of that sort of stuff. We know that that's a product that someone buys and buys again, and you repeat buy. It's a replenishment. So what we actually set up was what we call a replenishment campaign, and we look at that audience set of someone who's bought a particular product, and we customize their journey for that product. So if you bought a cleanser in Black Friday, we know the typical window of someone then sort of using that product and repeat buying with us is 3 months. We then structure a lot of our campaigns around the 2-month mark to actually get in front of them. So that might lead into about 1.5 to 2 months in, they start seeing paid ads on that product with testimonials as to why it's great, why it works for you, and all of these things. We then hit them with an email and an EDM and say, here's an easy way for you to buy this product. You might be running out, you might be getting low. Like if you've been thinking about it, here's an easy way to do it. And then ensuring that we sort of get that person in before they're ready to actually buy the next product. So we're anticipating their next move for them and sort of leaning on those motivations that we know to increase that next purchase. On a wider,
I love that. Just to add to that one, so seeing subscriptions grow in popularity right now. So can you actually incorporate that into a repeatable subscription? So you're not having to target them every 3 months, and they're actually signing up for a subscription. And that might be if you have a subscription for 12 months, then you get a VIP pricing on that product. And we also recently acquired a solution called Increasingly, which is bundles, right? So buy the skincare routine as opposed to buy the one product and go somewhere else for a new product. And I think bundling is going to be a big part of next year's strategy for growing the average order value for brands as well.
100% agree. It's so important, and just an easy way to sort of get them through to that next purchase. as well as things like cross-sells and upsells. If you know they've brought product A, what's the benefit of having product A and product B together? How do we then sort of sell them on the dream and show them it can be a reality through a simple step as well? So the way that I obviously look at it is what data we have on hand and what motivators we know even before they purchased to then play on post-purchase. So if we lived up to the expectation, and if this is sort of the behaviors that you're sitting in, how do we then keep that narrative going so the pre and the post-purchase isn't different as well? But yeah, there's a lot you can do, but I argue that sort of post-sale period is arguably one of the biggest times, and where the sort of emphasis and effort should go post Black Friday is that retention piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of that educational messaging, right, particularly in health and beauty, how can you promote that educational messages, whether that's in those email campaigns, so it's not just about promo, but encouraging, like, why would they want to be purchasing those products and that range from the brand in the future as well, and making sure those PDPs are really optimized. Or if we're on the skincare category, how you're using those inline banners to promote that educational message as well, and also bringing some of that content and that educational message to life by video. So we can use inline banners as video messaging right now as well. We know that video ads are converting up to 50%, nearly 50% higher than static ads. So how do we incorporate that video content into that educational piece as well?
It's a really good point. I think particularly when you think of the brands that have a higher price point or a higher priced item. So if you're, I don't know, you're spending $15,000 on a jet ski, the post-purchase area of that customer is so important, where I think your education piece really comes into the whole sentiment of whether a customer actually liked that transaction or not.
Absolutely. Jenna, anything to add on this loyalty and retention piece?
Yeah, I mean, a simple statement, but one of my favorites is that returns or refunds can equal retention, and they do equal retention. And I think that especially during this time, a customer might shop with your brand, especially for the first time, because of a promotion or because of an offer that you're promoting at that time. But we truly believe the customer comes back with an experience, and because of the experience that you're offering them on site, which comes down to a whole range of things that you do to deliver them that seamless on-site experience. But refunds is definitely one of them. What we see at Refunded is, whilst they might have converted for a promotion or a sale at that time, what really drives that repurchase is that instant refund experience that our retailers are delivering to their customers, not just in Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but really leaning in all year round. And I think shout out to some of our partners that I know are also joining this call, but when you really think about, Sea Folly or Workwear Hub and Princess Polly, and really using these emails to continuously share the experience that they're giving to their customers by investing in an instant refund experience, I think is really what drives that loyalty beyond. We see that the customers who go through an instant refund experience are more than 50% more likely to repurchase with your brand. And so what that does in terms of retaining more revenue over time is significant when it comes to loyalty. They're repurchasing 3 times faster, plus they're spending more money over time. And so you can really start to see how, whilst it started with one thing that might have been a promotion, that lifetime value continues with experience. And that's where you really start to see the benefit in retention and retained revenue from that experience. So I think for me, if I can take away one thing from this slide, it's that refunds equal retention.
Yeah, and some of those brands that you're calling out there do a really good job of building a community, right? As opposed to building a shopper and getting a shopper to transact again. They're building a community of loyal fans for the brand. So we've got some time for questions. So touched on automated merchandising campaigns during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Can you tell me more about how that works? Absolutely. So if you have a solution like SearchSpring, what we always recommend is have set up a Black Friday, Cyber Monday global campaign that's going to take over the whole campaign once you schedule that to start at the start of the campaign and finish at the end. And what we typically see brands doing is elevating the in-stock bestsellers that are part of their Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale, and making sure those products with good stock and size curve availability are being elevated to the top of those results. As things start to sell down or sell out, automatically merchandising them down in the results, being able to flip for seasonality between Australia and the US, for example, without having to have someone manually go in and move things around. That's not to say you actually can't take away some of those controls. If you've got a bundle that you want to be promoting, or a product that's that hero product that you've got lots of stock and you want to pin that into position on every page, or pin the first row on those top collections, you can still have those controls as well. And then you can also add a layer of personalization to say, show the shoppers more of the product types or brands they've been engaging with. So for us, your solution like SearchSpring is there to do the heavy lifting. So you can go to sleep at night and know that products that are selling out are automatically merchandising themselves down in the results. As products are selling higher, they're going to merchandise themselves up in the results as well. And our next question, how easy are instant refunds to implement, and how long does it usually take?
Yeah, so pretty seamless. This is really around working together to align your return policy. We have a Shopify plugin. So if you're on Shopify, it's just about downloading an app to get started. Likewise with all of the other main e-commerce platforms. So there's definitely still time to be live. We've set businesses live within a day. So if it is something that you're interested in doing before peak, there's absolutely still time to get that up and running. So from my experience in tech, it is a relatively seamless plug and play integration.
Love that. And then any more tips on how to drive conversion on site for organic visitors instead of relying on PPC when costs are escalating? And I think for me, that one really goes back to doubling down on the database that you've been building year round to make sure that you are encouraging and driving those shoppers to site. I think going early with pre-release for those loyal shoppers, or it might be everyone in your database if you don't have that layer of segmentation. But I think potentially having that early release, getting those shoppers that have been willing to share their personal data with you this year, getting them something back in that early release part. So particularly if products are going to sell down or sell out really quickly, being able to do that. I think the other piece is, if you do have some heavy promotions and products are going to sell out during that time, how can you set up some banners and a landing page to say, hey, that product sold out, you missed out this time, but we think you're going to love these products that are still part of the promotion and have that stock and size curve availability, and boosting those up as well, so you're not leading shoppers to dead ends. Jane, some thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and sort of looking at that on site, but then also your email experience. Other things that are typically helpful is relaying those motivators on site. So helping people find what product and check out as soon as they possibly can. So whether that be things like gifts for him, gifts for her, like relaying all of that in your main nav and across your website, so it's really clear for people to find what they're looking for. And then similar to what you were saying on the email front is just knowing your customer and segmenting based that to actually give them a personalized message across your emails and treating them as they're the one-on-ones. So if it's a VIP list, go hard on those guys, give them a little bit of like a boost, or give them early access, or sort of reward them for being that loyal following. And then for the remainder of your database, see how you can segment it and play on what that segment looks like as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We know those personal emails get higher open rate, higher click-through rate, higher engagement rate. And that's why we're seeing pushing those personalized product recommendations into those email flows can really help make sure you're showcasing the right products for them. Last question that we have time for. What impact does Refunded have on customer service teams?
I love this question because I think this is often the part that, doesn't get spoken about enough. But I think we all know in this space, there's a lot of heavy lifting on customer experience and customer service teams around where is my refund? Why haven't I had my refund yet? And what that does down the funnel in operations. And so when you think about an instant refund experience where the customer isn't out of pocket, they have their refund in 30 seconds, we see an 80% in some scenarios drop off, but within 2 weeks. So instantly those customer service inquiries around where is my refund disappear overnight. And so what that means is that those teams are able to service customers who are trying to purchase or potentially, looking to engage with your brand on site. And so there's a huge impact both on customer service teams, but also then how that works back in with the warehousing team as well. So definitely a key value proposition there from an instant refund experience.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's another piece on the customer service side, making sure if you are anticipating slower shipping or delivery times, how you're communicating that, whether that's during the purchase or in those post-purchase communications, so that you're not overloading those customer service teams with questions about where is my order and how do you reduce some of that noise as well. So just to wrap up again, if you didn't download that ebook previously, the QR code is on the screen and the link is also in the chat as well. So you can get those last minute Black Friday, Cyber Monday checklists and go through those different tips and make sure that you've actioned all of them and ticked them off. Big thank you to my panelists today. So Jane from Reload, Jenna from Refunded. To find out more, to continue the conversation, last tip would be, one, make sure you're auditing everything right now and finding those incremental opportunities for improved conversions or AOV, right products being elevated to the top of those top search terms and those top of those collections. But also lean in with your tech partners right now, lean in with your agencies, review your data, review your promotions, and make sure that everything is optimized ahead of time to really set yourselves up for success. Jane, last tip to wrap up?
My tip, I would say, is have a plan, but hold it loosely. Yeah. So have a plan and sort of go into the Black Friday period knowing what you think you're going to do. But once you see customer sentiment and if you see customer data and you see what message works, if it's not what you've got going on, pivot to that. And I think go hard with that.
Yep, love that. Don't be inflexible and lean into what's working. Jenna, close us out.
I would say use refunds as your competitive advantage. Talk about it, use it to acquire your customers in this competitive time, and then use it as an experience to keep those customers coming back.
Amazing. Thank you so much for everyone joining us. We hope you have a very high peak trade, and we look forward to talking soon.